Hello, my dear children and parents. Welcome to Indus Valley Public School Raj e-learning classes. Class 9th, where we were doing lesson number 5 from your Moments book, and the name of the lesson is The Happy Prince. In our earlier videos, we had studied about a happy prince and a swallow was there in the story. So here we will be studying about a happy prince. We already studied what happened in that. Now I'll give you a review that we had covered in our first video. So a happy prince, after his death, people of his kingdom made his the tallest statue. It was covered with thin layers of gold, and instead of eyeballs there were two bright shining sapphire stone. In the handle of his sword, a bright ruby stone was placed. He used to see the grievances of the people and became very sad, as he was mere a statue and was not able to do anything. One day a bird, swallow, came to him who was flying to Egypt and took shelter under the statue. It was drenched with the tears of the statue and confirmed the reason for the same from the statue. The statue narrated the story and said that when he was alive and he had a human heart means the heart that breathed, that pump. At that time, he was not aware what tears were and what sorrows was, as he lived in a palace where there was happiness all around. Now, when the statue's heart was made of lead, a metal, although it did not have any feelings, then also when it saw all the sadness, it became sad and wept. The king asked the bird to stay with him and be his messenger. The bird agreed to stay. One first night, the statue requested the swallow to take out the ruby stone from the handle of its sword and give it to the lady seamstress. Again, the statue requested the swallow that the boy was very thirsty and his mother was very sad, so it should go and give the ruby stone to her. Now, we will be starting with the other part of the lesson. Alas, I have no ruby now, said the prince. Now, prince is saying that it is very sad that he did not have any more ruby stones with him. My eyes are all that I have left. They are made of rare sapphires which were brought out of India 1,000 years ago. So Happy Prince said that now he had his eyes which were made of very precious and less rare, means very few, बहुत कम है जो sapphire stone which had been bought 1,000 of years ago from India. मतलब जो उसके पास सफ़ायर है बहुत ही ज़्यादा प्रीशियस है क्योंकि बहुत ही कम मिलता है और इसे बनने में हज़ारों साल लग जाते हैं इंडिया से लाने में. ठीक है. So he ordered the swallow to pluck out one of them and take it to the playwright. So now Happy Prince told swallow to take out one sapphire and give it to the boy. He will sell it to the jeweler and buy firewood and finish his play, he said. Dear prince, said the swallow, I cannot do that, and he began to weep. So, swallow was very sad to know that the prince, Happy Prince, wanted to give his eyes to the boy, and he started crying. Who? That swallow. He told Happy Prince that he cannot do that thing. He cannot take out the sapphire from his eyes or from his head. Sapphire represent the eyes of the Happy Prince. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince, do as I command you. So now, prince is saying that, please do that as I am giving you the order. And the swallow to do what he had told him to do. Okay. Now, here, so the swallow plucked out the prince's eye and flew away to the young man's garret. It was easy enough to get in, as there was a hole in the roof. Though this he darted and came into the room. The young man had his head buried in his hand. So, my dear children, just see the meaning of garret. Garret is a small dark room that we already studied in earlier video. Then darted means to push. जो हम लोग डार्ट वाला गेम खेलते हैं ना, एक थ्रो करते हैं एरो, दैट इज द वे. ओके, टू पुश समथिंग इनसाइड. नाउ and came into the room. So now the young man had his head buried in his hand. So now see this figure, no? Buried, जैसे आप सिर पे जो हाथ रख लेते हो, this is the situation that is given here. So the young man had his head buried in his hand. So he did not hear the flutter of the bird wing. Flutter जो birds का जो ऐसे होता है ना, उड़ने वाला जो wings को up and down करते हैं, तो जो noise होती है, that is the flutter noise. Okay. And when he looked up, he found the beautiful sapphire lying on his withered violet. So here withered violet is known for the flower. That flower, purple flower, that was withered, that was destroyed. So he found that sapphire. So now coming to explanation. So finally the swallow took out one eye, one sapphire out of the prince's eyes, and flew to the young man's garret. Garret is a room that we already discussed. There was a hole on the roof of the room. So there was a hole, so that the swallow entered the room through that hole. The boy was sitting his head on his hands, and that's why he did not hear the flutter of the bird's wing. And when he looked up, he saw the sapphire stone lying on the dried flowers. Okay. I am beginning to be appreciated. So appreciated means to praise someone. He cried, This is from some great admirer. Now I can finish my play. And he looked quite happy. So now what happened? This playwright, he was very happy when he saw the beautiful stone, and he felt that someone admired, some person who praised him had sent a gift for him. Okay, by seeing the sapphire, he thought कि जो मुझे praise करता है, जिसको मेरी stories अच्छी लगती हैं, शायद उसने मुझे वो gift भेजा है. So he appreciated that. So he thought that with this he could now finish his play. अब वो sapphire से अपना play को easily finish कर सकता है. Okay. So now coming to the next part. The next day, the swallow flew down the harbor. Harbor means a seaport. He sat on the mast of a large vessel and watched the sailors working. I'm going to Egypt, cried the swallow. But nobody minded, and when the moon rose, he flew back to the happy prince. So next morning, the swallow bird flew down to the harbor and sat on a mast of a ship. He spoke loudly that he was going to Egypt. And when it was night, he flew back to happy prince. I have come to bid you goodbye, he cried. So swallow once again told the happy prince that it had come to say goodbye. He was going to Egypt. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince, will you not stay with me one night longer? So now once again, happy prince requested swallow to stay with him for one more night. It is winter, answered the swallow, and snow will soon be here in Egypt, and the sun is warm on the green palm trees, and the crocodiles lie in the mud and look lazily about them. So now what a two-bit means to say. So here bird is saying that to the prince that winter season had started, and after some time it would start snowing, means baraf girne lagegi, snow will fall, and the weather in Egypt was warm, and even the crocodiles lay on the mud lazily there. So he told him to let him go to Egypt. Okay, so swallow is saying to the happy prince, let him allow to go to the Egypt. To Egypt. In the square below, said the happy prince, there stands our little match girl. She has let her matches fall in the gutter, and they are all spoiled. Her father will beat her if she does not bring home some money, and she's crying. She has no shoes or stockings, and her little head is bare. Pluck out my other eye and give it to her, and her father will not beat her. So now this was the third assignment that was given to the swallow from the prince. Happy Prince said that there was a match girl. She was a little girl, and all her matchsticks had fallen in the gutter. Okay? So that girl was having some matchstick and all her sticks were falling in the gutter. And all that matchstick got wet. All her matchsticks were spoiled, so she could not sell them and she would not earn any money. And when she will go home without money, then her father would get angry and beat her. For this reason, the girl was crying. So the happy prince said that she was not wearing shoes nor stockings and she had not covered her head. She was very poor. So he said to the swallow to take out another sapphire from his eyes and give it to her so that her father did not beat her. I will stay with you one night longer, said the swallow, but I cannot pluck out your eyes. You would be quite blind then. So now swallow agreed to stay with the prince for one more night, but he refused to take out another sapphire that was placed in place of eyes, because if he did that, then prince would become blind. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince, do as I command you. So now again happy prince told to do what he had ordered to him. So he plucked out the prince's other eye and darted down with it. He swooped. Swooped means fly very low. Past the match girl and slipped the jewel into the palm of her hand. What a lovely bit of glass, cried the little girl, and she ran home laughing. So now what happened? So finally the swallow obeyed the happy prince's order. He took another sapphire stone from his eyes and flew to the little match girl. And when he saw the match girl, he bent very low and kept the sapphire stone on the little girl's hand. The little girl was very happy to see the stone and she went home happily. Then the swallow came back to the prince. You are blind now, he said, so I will stay with you always. When swallow returned to the prince, happy prince, he told him that now he was blind and so he would stay with him forever. No, little swallow, said the poor prince, you must go to Egypt. So now prince said to the swallow that he should go to Egypt now, no need to stay with him. No, I will stay with you always, said the swallow, and he slept at the prince's feet. But swallow refused and said that he would stay with him only and slept on the prince's feet. Okay, prince's feet. All the next day he sat on the prince's shoulder and told him stories of what he had seen in the strange lands. So now the swallow used to stay long with prince all the time and used to tell him the stories of the different places that he had visited. Dear swallow, said the prince, you tell me of marvelous things, but more marvelous than thing is the suffering of men and women. There is no mystery so great a misery. Fly over my city, little swallow, and tell me what you see there. The happy prince said to the swallow to tell him wonderful things, but added that nothing was more wonderful than the suffering of people. No mystery was bigger than sadness, and he wants to know who all was sad in his kingdom. So he asked the swallow to go and let him know what he saw while flying over the city. So now mystery is unknown things and marvelous means wonderful. Okay. So the swallow flew over the great city and saw the rich making merry in their beautiful houses while the beggars were sitting at the gate. And he flew into the dark lanes and saw the white faces of the starving children looking out listlessly at the black street. So now what happened? Starving means suffering from hunger and listlessly means restless. So the swallow flew and took a round over the city and saw that the rich people were living happily in their beautiful houses and they were partying with the poor people were begging. So all the rich people, they were very happy. They used to do parties while the poor people, they were begging and sitting outside the gates of the rich people. Then he went to the dark lane where there was no light also and the poor people lived. There he saw that children were hungry due to which their faces had turned white. Under the archway of a bridge, two little boys were lying in each other's arms to try and keep themselves warm. So archway means the bridge का जो shape होता curve वाला, that is okay. So now further the swallow saw two little boys under the archway of the bridge. They were lying much close to each other so that they kept themselves warm. They were so poor they did not have food, so they were lying to keep each other warm. How hungry we are, they said. You must not lie here, shouted the watchman, and they wandered out into the rain. So the two children were starving and wondering that how hungry they were. Then the watchman appeared and scolded them. He shouted and made them to go away from there. The poor children kept wandering in the rain as they were homeless. Then he flew back and told the prince what he had seen. So Swallow went back to the happy prince and told him what he had seen in the city. So all the stories about the boys, hungry boys, rich people, beggars, everything that Swallow told to the happy prince. I am covered with fine gold, said the prince. You must take it off leaf by leaf and give it to the poor. The living away think that gold can make them happy. The happy prince told Swallow that his whole body was covered with fine gold. He could take tiny pieces of gold from his body and give it to the poor people in need. All the living beings required money, and when they would get gold, they would feel happy. So, now he said to take out all the covering and give it to the poor people. So, children, here I end my video and the explanation. In the further video, I'll explain you rest part of the lesson. So, go through the first part and the second part of the explanation. Any doubt? Do call me up and clear your doubts. Okay. Now, it's the time to say you bye-bye and thank you. Take care. Thank you so much.